I want to provide some context. So here's my whole entire fitness journey from 14 up until 24. Okay, so from the ages of 0 to 14, exercise and sports was never really part of my thing. I've grown up as the chubby kid. I was never really overweight, but people took note of the fact that I was a bit chubby. I didn't really care. The only thing I cared about from the ages of 0 to 14 was playing a lot of video games, eating my sweets, and also recording videos for that matter. Yeah, I used to be a sick YouTuber back in the days, okay? Anyways, at the age of 14, I realized that, you know what? I should probably start taking care of myself, because that was the time when I started discovering girls, and I realized that all the girls just want one thing, and that's a guy with abs. So my whole entire personality basically shifted from going from a video game nerd to just being able to attract girls. So I got a gym membership. So I'm not gonna bore you with the details of what I was actually doing in the gym. I was just going 2-3 times a week, figuring things out. But here comes the most important thing, and where kinda everything takes a big turn. So I discovered that, you know what, if I'm gonna start exercising, I might as well start taking care of my diet. And this is where, well, yeah, it gets bad. I started with the usual shit. Cut out all the sugar, cut out all the bad food, just eat clean, okay? Now, obviously, I had no clue what I was doing, and I was super young. So what I would do was just like, whenever I got into a plateau, I would just drastically lower the food. Now, this is where I started developing my eating disorder. So I would start skipping meals. So I started out skipping breakfast, then I gradually moved on to not eating lunch at school, and then I start skipping dinner. I'm not gonna go super in detail about my eating disorders in this video because it's gonna be too long, and I just wanna focus on the actual training journey. But I do have a podcast in Swedish where I go through everything. Basically, to keep a super long story short, it got super bad, and my parents found out that I was hiding food under my bed, and one day they pulled out. So basically, I had stored a bunch of food that my mom had cooked in a bag under my bed. She found it. We had a whole intervention. Luckily, the intervention came super early, so I never really got to a critically bad point. So my lowest weight was like 46, 47 kg. But with that being said, what happened was that we had an intervention, and for like 3 or 4 months, I was not allowed to work out at all. My dad cut my gym card in half, said that if you don't like start eating, we're not gonna let you work out. Naturally, of course. So those 3 to 4 months, I got heavy into researching both diet, but also, and the most important thing, training. This is like 2014, 2015. I discovered a lot of the old idols, the David Lades. I discovered the Matt Oguses. I was on YouTube every single second just looking at a bunch of like gym content basically. And then I finally got my gym membership back at the back end of 2014, 15, somewhere around that time. And that's when I started hammering the gym and became an official gym bro. Now, obviously, I'm gonna say that 14, 15, I still kind of didn't know what I was doing. It was in 9th grade, 2016, when I actually started going like super into, like I got really, really into lifting basically. I found powerlifting, I was documenting everything. And also, you can tell that I still had some problems with food, because I was keeping meticulous diaries of my calorie intake and yeah, all that. Like I said, I can do a whole separate video on my very long journey of having a better relationship with food and how I've overcome all the obstacles with food, but we'll leave that for another video. Anyways, I got to high school as a sophomore. I was like 60 something kgs, I think. And the thing is, like, every single one of the guys that I was going with, like that I started sophomore with, they were like big guys. We all went to the same gym. They were just like 20, 30 kilos heavier than me. Obviously, this made sense because they were a lot taller than me. So for those of you who don't know, I'm 170 centimeters. So I never really put on like a lot of weight, right? And with my background, like I just liked staying a little bit lean, basically. But once I got to high school, I said, screw that. I want to become as big as possible. I want to be like my friends. So I blew out diet completely out of the window. Now at this point, obviously I've been binge eating, I've been tracking, I've had all that. So I just came to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make sure that I hit my protein and whatever else I eat. So enter the phase of a dirty bulk that lasted 3 years throughout my entire high school. I'm gonna say that this was the best and the worst decision I've ever made. It was the best decision because honestly, like throughout these 3 years, I really didn't care about food that much, like other than getting in my, like I was the basic typical gym bro, right? But I just got so big, I just got so strong. I lifted weights 6 to 7 times a day, like 6 to 7 times a week. Like, I just loved lifting weights. Obviously I put on muscle, but like most of what I put on during high school was just fat, honestly. And honestly, this cycle of dirty bulking started in 2017 and didn't end until 2022. So basically 3 years in high school and then 2 years after that. Now, like I said, I can't even call this a proper bulk. I just really ate whatever, but I just loved lifting weights. The classic gym bro. So I did this for 5 years, went from 60 something kg to topping out at about 100. Now during 2022, I decided that, you know what, I need a change. I want to become the best version of myself. I want to become like the guy that I've always aspired to be. And then enter my very long cutting journey from 2022 to 2024, when I got into the best shape of my entire life. Now, it's important to note that much of my training throughout these years hasn't really changed. I like hitting compound lifts. I like lifting weights. I don't do cardio, okay? I started doing cardio when I was losing the weight, but I saw it as a way to lose weight. And I started doing the Stairmaster. That was basically it. Other than that, like cardio for me, like cardiovascular fitness for me was just like a way to burn more calories, basically. So I got into the best shape of my life in 2024, and this is where I discovered running. Basically what happened was that during the summer of 2024, I had a little nerve impingement, so I couldn't work out for like a week, and I was gonna blow my head off. But then I realized, you know what? I might as well start running because the weather is good, so why not? It's also important to know that I actually started running when I was actually fit. So it wasn't a way to get fit. I was already fit. I just needed to do something while I was healing my arm. And yeah, man, honestly, like, I don't know what happened that summer. It was actually insane. Like, it was the typical sort of progression. So I went out for my first run. It was a 10K, felt amazing. I just kept on running more and running further. I didn't care about time. I did care about how far I went. And I remember like every single time I just ran further and further. And honestly, I wish I could give you a more detailed version of what I was actually doing, but I actually have no clue. Like I was still strength training as usual 6 times a week. I was just, like I said, gradually increasing volume, running more, enjoying it more, etc, etc. I had no goals whatsoever. I didn't think about races. I didn't think about anything other than the fact that running just made me feel excited again. I feel like after so many years of trying to reach my dream physique, I feel like I was missing something, and that was what I was missing basically, because I've had just noticed that being in the best shape of your life didn't give me the fulfillment that I wanted at all. Like I remember that summer, yeah, I enjoyed it. Like the summer of 2024, I definitely enjoyed the fruits of my labor of coming into the best shape of my life. But I realized also that like it's such vanity and nobody really cares, and I don't even want to associate with people who care, because obviously like there was a lot of people who cared. Suddenly I went from like not getting a lot of attention to getting a lot of attention at the same time. This is also when I started posting on social media, and like half the videos I was posting during that time was me shirtless. So I was just getting a bunch of instant gratification. It was fun for like 3 weeks, but like I said, I feel like running came in perfectly at that time because it gave me something else, like gave me a completely different purpose. Now as winter came about, I kind of stopped running, like not really stopped running. So I had these weekly long runs. I would always run at least 20K on the treadmill every single Sunday. But other than that, I wasn't really running that much. Fast forward to April of 2025, and in my city where I study, they had this marathon. And there was a bunch of my classmates who talked about, yeah, you know what, you should sign up because you obviously run. Why don't you run the marathon? Now, I've never really thought about, like I said, I've never really cared about pace or anything like that. I just ran for the mental aspect. And I was like, you know what, why not? Like, I know I can cover the distance. At that time, I had already ran a marathon on a treadmill actually, and I've ran like long distances for a long time, so I know I could do it. As soon as I heard like marathon medal, I started thinking about times, and that was like the first time in my life where I started thinking about pace. Like up until that point, I had never cared about pace. So I signed up with about a month to go. I had no structured training at all. Like I did not know what I was doing. I think my highest mileage week, not a mileage week, sorry, kilometer week was like 70K. And then I ran it a 3:38 for my first marathon, which was crazy. And I remember taking like 2 weeks off from running completely after that. And then I came back, and yeah, ever since that, after the marathon, that's when like I'm gonna say that's where my actual running journey started. So summer 2025, I went full endurance mode, so much so that I actually experienced reds. Obviously, like I said, that's a whole nother video. I just want to keep it very brief so you guys get an understanding of like how my training journey has went. But anyways, 2025, I was doing everything. I was doing the running, the swimming. I was planning on the Ironmans and everything. But basically what happened was I met some good people through social media. I got myself a running coach. I met up with my running coach a bunch of times. I kind of got to learn about myself more and what I actually wanted to do. So basically from summer 2025 up until now, my primary focus has been, obviously I still lift weights 4 to 5 times a week. I love doing compound lifts. I will always lift weights. But my biggest goal right now, and the goal I set out during summer 2025, which I haven't reached yet, was to run a sub-3 marathon. So I went into a 16-week block. I did a training marathon in my hometown where I ran a 3:12 official time, and we were building up to run a sub-3 in Spain, in Malaga, where unfortunately I got an injury. So I got shin splints before the actual marathon, but I ran it with shin splints anyways. Very stupid, don't do that by the way. So basically my first actual year of running, I ran 3 marathons. That was the whole thing. So I took 2 months off running completely, did a lot of cross training, and now we're officially back and I'm officially on my first 80K week now. But this is just to give you an introduction of how my journey has been. So for those of you who are new here and who are subscribing and are seeing this video for the first time, this is just a brief history of who I am. Okay, who I am was a bit much, but more of my fitness journey. So basically this brings us to the present, where my goal is still to run a sub-3 marathon. And obviously, like, I've compressed this whole journey, but the running journey has been very, very, like, it's like 1000x in the last couple of months. There's a lot of changes that has happened. There's a lot of things I've learned from myself mentally and all that sort of stuff that I will be sharing with you a lot on YouTube now. Like, you're gonna see the whole journey basically. I have 8 races booked just these couple of months, so there's a lot of things you guys are going to see. But like I said, this is just a brief introduction to my fitness journey. And if you're new to the channel, I'm basically using YouTube as my personal diary. So I cover, and I will cover, mostly fitness tips, tricks, but also my own journey, primarily my own journey to be honest, and also travels, how life is as a medical student. Like, I just feel like I want to keep this channel open to everything while I just document my journey. But fitness obviously being a big part of my life is probably what you're going to see most of. So with that being said, if you guys want to take part of the journey, please subscribe, like, comment, do all that good stuff, and I will continue to make better and better videos. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.